Hey, what's up, guys, and welcome to another Heat Seekers Best Ball Show. I'm Simon Edwards, aka at PumaCom on X, and I'm joined today by a very special guest. Dean Shavelson over from Roto Grinders is joining me to talk some best ball today. Dean, you're relatively new to the best ball streets this year. What's your thinking on how it's going so far?
Yeah, I finally got sucked in, and I want to be clear. Like I do tons of content over at Roto Grinders, football, baseball, basketball, football DFS, but I do not do best ball content. So I'm not. I'm kind of sort of like a fake wannabe best ball bro, but I've dipped my toes in, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Actually, I'll be honest. I've enjoyed the drafting process, but like I'm not. This is not something. I'm not creating content, but I'm following all sorts of stuff. I'm keeping an eye on the Spike Week is the Roto Grinders branch of best ball stuff, listening to their content as well as other stuff around the industry, and it's been fun. I'll tell you. So I've been on Sirius. Roto Runners has been on Sirius these past so many months or so, and they wanted us to start talking about football. And typically, Simon, DFS, Daily Fantasy Sports, I care about today and today only. Typically, I'm way behind football, and I wouldn't know a whole slew of names. And now I'm just kind of like throwing out guys like the tight ends, like this is a rookie tight end class. I wouldn't be aware of this stuff until 10 days before the season starts, but I'm on top of it. So I'm as locked in as ever. So it's kind of like to help me hone in for the regular season, which is also kind of tricky. It's a whole other conversation because, I always like to say week one NFL season, we're all Jon Snow, right? We know nothing. We think we know everything. We follow the content in the offseason and the games start. And it's like, oh, wow, we didn't expect that, this or that. And, goofy variants happen. So sometimes it's a benefit to kind of have your head in the sand. But now I'm going to come in with some like preconceived notions, and we'll see how it works out from a DFS perspective. But yeah, dude, I'm thrilled. I'm very much excited about playing best ball now, which is I've never thought I'd be this guy. If me from 4 years ago could see myself now, very disappointed, shaking its head, wagging its finger. But yeah, man, it's been fun. And I as per the rules, if you draft on best ball, you have to tweet out what your current ownership is on certain players. Otherwise, you're not even trying. You're not even actually drafting anything. But I don't think it officially doesn't count. Best ball and like Underdog, they'll go in and make sure you tweeted about your team. Otherwise, you don't get paid out. I'm told that is true. But yeah, man, I'm fully in the world, and I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah, I will say that when I started playing best ball, I started feeling a lot more prepared when the NFL season came around, and it will affect your performance this year. I think you'll get off to a hot start, Dean. I think you'll find that you're way ahead of the curve when it comes to your research and everything, and I think it'll help you out, man.
Yeah, I know who Luke Musgrave is and Jake Ferguson. These are
Yep.
guys I would never know last year. I'm told they're pretty interesting flyers as far as tight ends, and we'll dig in. We'll talk about it.
Well, that's a thing too, because a lot of the DFS world doesn't get into best ball, so they go into the
Yeah.
season doing maybe a week's worth of research or something like that. So they haven't heard of those guys. So that gives you quite a significant edge when it comes like 2-3 weeks in the season, and these guys are popping off, and you kind of have an idea of which ones are going to be legit and which ones are just kind of smoke screens or whatever. So I mean, this is. I think you're gonna recognize that early on that you have advantage with your research edge there.
That is the plan. That's all part of the plan. It all kind of started as like again just providing content and sounding competent on Sirius. I wanted to be able to be able to follow the conversation when it comes to football. So I better dive in. And I'm like, oh wait, eventually you start seeing the thousands tweet as far as the best ball thread. I'm like, all right, let's see what this best ball stuff is. And also, there's a lot of variety out there. Underdog, DK. I already had money in my DK account. Underdog. Like, oh, let's try $3 million up top. And it's also like a pretty flat payout. My understanding, like 20%, which is like I typically don't like to chase like those big payouts where it's 40% up top. Like I want a flat payout. And then Drafters is a place I'm having a good time as well, where I think there's a decent chance of overlay. There's also different formats. I like how Drafters is just like the entire season. Week 17 is not stressed. It's not like you're not obligated to stack Kansas City, Cincinnati on Drafters as you are an Underdog, I'm told. Although, I mean, if you're not stacking for Week 17, what are you even doing on Underdog? All your decisions must be based upon exactly because we know who's playing in Week 17, and we know exactly where every team's going to be in 4 months. No, wait, we don't. We don't. I don't think we do. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Shout out to Titletown, by the way, a friend of mine who won the drafters contest last year. He, same mentality. He's a DFS player, and he got into best ball a couple years ago. And last year he was doing a ton of drafts. I can't remember if he was doing all slow drafts or whatever, like leading into the season. But yeah, he ended up shipping the 250K, I think the prize was last year. And Drafters is a good site to draft on. It's a different format, like Dean was saying. It's a PPR format, and then they also do the entire year instead of going through a whole playoff series at the end of the season. And yeah, the week 17 stuff, you don't have to really worry about that unless you want to implement that into your strategy for whatever reason. But
you probably
yeah,
played.
I mean,
I'm sorry, not to cut you off. I apologize. You probably played a lot of season long stuff over the years, and I always thought one of the dumber things with season long football, like you ever see the teams that win season long, and it's just like whoever is left standing. But whenever when I was in my home league with my friends, I always stressed you have to have like a regular season pot. Like half the pot's got to go to the regular season because it's so stupid when like the third running back you scoop off of waiver wires because everybody else is like no longer available to play football because it's a violent game. That's who wins the championship, despite the fact that you drafted. It's just so goofy. So I like the setup for drafters. I also like again a flat payout. I think it's $300K up top and a $2 million prize pool. So I like that format much better. You said it was 250 last year. I wonder if it overlaid last year. Because, yeah,
that was the top prize. Yeah, it was 250, something like that.
You have a preference as far as format? Because I prefer the drafters format. I don't like the variance of like the goofy stuff that can happen week 16, week 17. Of course, you can get saved by that as well if you're limping in. But I think the best team, obviously variance is going to happen, but the best team should be rewarded. And you're better positioned to get rewarded on drafters than you would on other sites.
Right. I'll be honest, like these past few seasons, I've gotten killed with injuries in Underdog, but prior to the injury seasons that I've been kind of dealing with these last couple years, I always liked the Underdog format. But yeah, like what you're saying is true about advancing in the playoffs and stuff like that, because you can put together a great team. I remember the year that Lamar Jackson broke out, right? I was like 50% owned on Lamar Jackson and a bunch of these other guys that were crushing that year. And I had a huge advance rate. And then you got to, maybe the first or second week of the preseason, just like every single one of those players just shit the bed, right?
Yeah.
Like the exact same week, they all just sucked. And all my teams were eliminated. So I went through, maybe like a 50% advance rate, something like that. And then all my teams were just dead. So it's just like, it's really about, a lot of it is about luck. A lot of it is about, like differentiating your teams and getting, different exposures to guys, but you don't want to go too crazy because you want to have your convictions, and you want to have the ability to advance a lot of teams based on those convictions. So it really takes a lot of luck and a lot of research at the top of the season. So
it's interesting. I see a lot of people tweeting out their exposures, and maybe it's because I haven't done a ton of drafts. I've done 30 so far on Underdog. I don't know if that's a lot or a little or whatever. I'm 30 in the 25, and I look at people's exposures, and like the highest number they have is like 22, 23, maybe 25%. And again, I have 30 drafts, and I have 4 people that I have at least 40% exposure to, which is, again, it's either going to really work out or it's going to really backfire. But
what was that percentage?
So I have 4, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm pulling it up right now. 5 players that I have at least 40% ownership of, which obviously, you're going to get like 8% on average. Is that correct math? 8 times 12?
8% is the average. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm taking some big stands, basically, is what I'm saying. And hopefully it works out. Lamar, by the way, is my second most popular quarterback, 26% for Lamar, because in part, because I think round 3 is just like kind of this big muck of like they're all just kind of the same, right? Like it's just weird. We'll get to it. We're gonna draft in a second, right? And it's just like I don't see what separates the 20th guy from the 35th guy, so I might as well. Okay, I guess I'll just take Lamar. He's typically the last quarterback standing, after Allen, after Mahomes, and after Hurts. And it's like, I think there's a gap after him. And I think he's got a chance to jump in the top 3. So, and like, it's also really, really fun when you compare Lamar with Andrews. That's always a good time if you can make that work. Like 3 and 4, if you're kind of near the front, that can happen on occasion. But yeah, Lamar's one of my bigger stands. So you mentioned him, and I just thought, bringing it back. I'm sure you got him back in the day, like in the 10th round or something goofy like that. But yeah, we're excited about some Lamar Jackson shares this year.
Yeah, for sure. Like, and that'll bring us into our first topic there, Dean. But before we proceed with this, just a reminder to please subscribe to the YouTube page at Heat Seeker Sports is our X handle. If you could subscribe there too. We appreciate the likes. Like if you're liking the video, and if you like the takes that Dean's about to spit, please give us a like on the video. And I guess we'll hop into the guys that you're focusing on right now, Dean. Like who are the guys that you're the highest draft on? You mentioned Lamar Jackson, obviously, but who are some of these other guys that you're targeting or trying to target in all these drafts?
Yeah, as far as quarterback, Lamar Jackson, 26%. I have 40% Sam Howell. I mean, it's a very easy stack to make at the end of the draft as well. If you're looking to stack, I love pairing him with Curtis Samuel. If that's an option. I know McLaurin's a guy that there's more. It's trickier to get McLaurin, and he's dealing with the turf toe. It's going to cost you a 5th rounder or so, something like that. But Curtis Samuel you can get pretty easily. You can get Howell, and I would imagine he's going to start working his way up the board a little bit. He's had a great preseason. This is not a victory lap, but I assume I've been taking him like super late. And one thing I like to do, so like I was talking about taking Lamar Jackson, or if you're taking something like Mahomes, taking something like Allen, and this is also especially like on Underdog where you're only limited to 18 picks. You can be a little more flexible on DK where you can get 20, on drafters where you get 20. But when you have 18, I find myself, I'm like, I really need an extra roster spot or two, right? So one of the benefits of drafting an elite quarterback is that you don't feel obligated to draft 3. You can draft 2. And so I'm pairing elite quarterback with Sam Howell. And like, I don't have to worry about quarterback from, rounds 4 through 15. I just don't have to worry about it. And if you really want to be super ambitious, like I've seen it before, where you just draft 1 quarterback. That's probably not something I would do, but I'm going to have Mahomes and that's that, and build the Kansas City stacks. And if he doesn't do well, so be it. If he gets hurt, so be it. Move on. But it just kind of gives you an extra roster spot, similar to if you draft Kelsey. Like if you draft Kelsey, I feel like now I'm not obligated to draft 3 tight ends, because I think the tight ends are pretty loaded in the back end. And if you can't get one of the elite guys, you can get 3 of the guys at the end, and they're all pretty good. And just, one of those 3 is going to score a touchdown every week. That's the plan. And we'll just kind of figure it out from there. And, they're all going to get like 4 for 50 and somebody falls in the end zone. But Sam Howell has been my favorite quarterback in the back end, super, super late. He has legs. I like the guys, he's got pretty good weapons. The new OC coming from Kansas City, I assume they're going to be pretty, we'll see. I assume they're going to, revamp the offense, going to be more versatile going forward. Samuel's a guy also, just like, he's a kind of a gadget guy. Like he's a guy that can run the ball. He's somebody that, I could just see him like getting worked in a couple of goofy plays here and there. What do you really need at your 7th or 8th receivers? And I just love that ready-made pairing. As far as running back, as far as my other ownership stuff, my highest owned roster player is a running back, and it's James Cook. I have him at 53% of rosters, which is, and his ADP has been rising, and I've been drafting him all along the way. I just love really, really talented players attached to good offenses. And more or less that's that. Now I'm totally prepared for Latavius Murray to steal the first goal line touchdown or Josh Allen or something like that.
Yeah.
What's that? Oh, yeah, or Damian Harris, I suppose.
Yeah.
I just opportunity and skill and positive offense. And like, he's not going to be like a workhorse guy, but I think he's going to get enough touches and an efficient enough offense. And I just don't think his ADP is where it should be. So, James Cook has been one of my guys as well. But Ty Chandler, if you're curious, he's like another one of my last round flyers. I'm not perfectly sold that Madison's like the locked, he's the number 1 guy for sure if they're married to that. I have watched some of the tape on Twitter. And I've been sold on the Ty Chandler narratives out there. And again, he's like a last round flyer, like an 18th round pick, and keep on landing on him. And Minnesota is projected to be one of the worst defenses in the league. They're in a dome. It just feels like a team that's going to be involved in a bunch of shootouts. And I like the idea of getting attached to good offenses or teams that are well positioned for offense on the cheap. And that's Ty Chandler. He's going to get some reps, right? So that's kind of where I'm at as far as running back. My last one I'll throw out to you, Simon, is Jaylen Warren. I got Jaylen Warren at 36%. And again, his ADP is, I think, from the start. Now, I haven't been drafting from the beginning. I've only been drafting for like 3 weeks or so. So I came in late on this. But I think it's down to like 120 or so. I'll take him at 110, 115, depending on, and it's a bet against whatever's going on there, the situation right now at Pittsburgh. It's a bet against a starter, essentially.
Harris?
Yeah, it's a bet against Harris. And, Warren, like eye test, however you want to do it, looks better. And he does them the pedigree, undrafted free agent. And he's going to get some work. And we saw he looked pretty good last year when he had an opportunity. Pittsburgh's offense kind of sort of, it maybe just by default, has to be better this year, right? You'd have to think so. Yeah. That's where I'm at. And we'll talk about it when we're drafting, Simon. But like around 10th round, 11th round, I hate the receivers. I'm almost always drafting a couple running backs round 10, round 11. Just the way it works out. We'll see. It's going to happen again.
Yeah, it's become a wide receiver hungry game, basically. Everybody's pretty much trying to get their wide receivers at the top in the first 10 rounds. All the good wide receivers get soaked up, but it also, obviously leaves you with other positions after that 10th round that you get some pretty good values on. I noticed like running backs, there's still a lot of good values after the 10th round. There's still some good tight ends you can draft out of the 10th round. And there's a few quarterbacks that are going later in these drafts too. And one of them is Anthony Richardson. He's a guy I'm kind of interested in. I think he's one of those dudes that every year it seems there's going to be a running quarterback that falls in the 10th or later rounds that everybody tries to kind of make their sleeper pick or whatever. But I could see Anthony Richardson putting up some points this year. He's going to be in the right offense for it. He's going to have we don't know what's happening with Jonathan Taylor right now because Jonathan Taylor just had approval for, to seek trades. So they're looking for a first round pick in exchange. So highly unlikely that he's going to get traded. But, Colts have approved him to search for a trade, and he hasn't been at training camp all season or all off season. So I think he's just now starting to get into training camp. So the offense has been running without Jonathan Taylor in the practices and in the off season. So, who knows how much they're going to feature Anthony Richardson in that situation. He could be the featured runner in that offense. And he's interesting after the 10th round. Also, Aaron Rodgers. I'm high on Aaron Rodgers this season. I think that he's going to be playing with a chip on his shoulder. He's already shown a commitment to the Jets with showing up to training camp, which is, something he doesn't he usually shows up late for the Packers the last few years. Dude's won 2 MVPs in the last 3-4 years. And now he's with the Jets. He reunites with Nathaniel Hackett, who, tried to do a stint over at Denver. I was talking to Bob about this before. Neither of us are very high on Nathaniel Hackett as a coach, but he's a good bait for Aaron Rodgers, and he's gotten Aaron Rodgers over to the Jets. So those two are reunited. He was the coach of his most recent MVP seasons as well. So, he's an interesting guy that's going after the 10th round. There's still a few others in there too. But what are your thoughts on Aaron Rodgers and Anthony Richardson there, Dean? Like those late round flyers.
One of those guys I'm in on. One of those guys I'm not. I'm in on Richardson. I think it could be kind of sort of like it's not fair to call him. I don't want to compare him to Tebow because that's kind of insulting.
Yeah.
But I think it could be ugly. I think he's going to find his way to get fantasy points, and it's going to be kind of ugly because that Indianapolis offense is probably going to be a mess. I'm not messing at all with the running backs. I don't think it's let's say Taylor's gone, like amongst Moss and Jackson and Hull, it feels like a disaster. And like, I don't think it's going to be like one person separating themselves, and they might bring somebody else in if Taylor's gone as well. So for me, that's been a total avoid. I just think Richardson has the potential upside, like just like you said, have 100-yard games in the ground. The receiving pairings are tough because tight end wise, there's no clear and obvious tight end. Indianapolis is going to be rotating tight ends, and is it going to be Woods or Mo Alley Cox? And tight ends are pretty deep this year, so I'm just not picking any of them. I do think that Downs is an interesting like 18th round flyer if you want to pair with Richardson. I like that, the rookie. Pittman I like, but I wish he was just a little bit lower as far as ADP, but I'm cool pairing that. But, playing Richardson a la carte, just all by himself, naked, if you will, I'm good with. I think he's going to have some big upside games. Playing in a dome, with his speed, probably behind a fair bit. My issue with Rodgers, by the way, Hard Knocks, very likable. Got to give it to him. He's come off. I don't know if you've been watching Hard Knocks. Just a fun show, very well produced, and Aaron Rodgers comes off super likable in that. I just think that his offenses are too slow. He goes to the line and he audibles 19 different times, and I want plays. Let's go. The more plays, the more fantasy opportunities. He goes too slow. And
Dean, you froze. I don't know if you can hear me. Lost Dean. I'm gonna give it a second here. Yeah. So while we're waiting on Dean, I'm with him on Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers, like he typically plays a lot slower, but he has been able to put up fantasy points in the past. He had that season a couple years ago where he won the MVP, and he was putting up some decent points on some weeks for fantasy. So that's good for best ball, obviously. Here comes Dean. He's coming back in, so we'll get him back in here. 1 second. What's up, Dean?
Can you see me or no? My apologies.
I've got a green. You look like the Hulk right now. There you go.
Hold on a second. There are worse things to look like, I suppose, but
your camera looks sharp right there.
Yeah, I don't know I've been having issues with my connections, and I don't know what's going on. But hopefully we're going to happen. I'm getting trying to get my virtual background set up as well. But I guess we can just sort of power through and go with this. This is kind of my old school setup, but all right, my apologies for derailing, but yeah, and the only thing is like I love Garrett Wilson too, but like I don't like where he's at in the ADP. I like better players around him. I think he's spectacular. I love the talent, but everything is about what a cost is, and we'll get into it as far as drafts. But I'll take St. Brown over him. I'll take Pollard over him. I'll take Lamb. Give me AJ Brown. Like I just don't have him ahead of those guys. So I'm just not getting Wilson. So I'm not feeling like I should pair Wilson with Rodgers. And again, it's not a negative on Wilson. He's fine. It's just at that ADP, like 15, 16 overall, I'm just not landing there is all.
Yeah. Well, Dean, let's take this opportunity maybe to jump into a draft together. We can get this rolling, and then we can touch on some of those other guys that we're avoiding.
How do we coordinate this to make sure we're in the same draft? We got to click the exact same second, and hopefully we end in the same draft. Otherwise, it'll be a disaster.
Yeah, that's pretty much the route that I take. When me and Bob did it the other day, like we missed the 3 count, and I ended up in there, and there was like 10 guys. Actually, no, wait. We were going to do it one person. I was just going to draft because he was nervous that we wouldn't get in the same draft.
Okay, same thought. That's funny.
About like 10. Yeah. So if we like try to do it at the same time, that's typically the technique that I'll use on these things.
So we're going to chance it. We're going to try to see if we both can jump in the same. We're going to jump in the $25 Best Ball Mania 4. Is that correct?
Yes. Let me enter first. I'll see how many are in there, and then if there's enough room in there, I'll give you a heads up, and if not, I'll just jump out and we'll wait for it to fill. All right, hang on. I'm gonna enter. Okay, let me know when you have yours queued.
Well, I want to hit enter, and then I want to hit wish to enter Best Ball Mania 4, and just be ready to click yes. Correct. So just
Yes.
like be at that. Okay, that's where I'm at.
Yep.
I'm ready to click
Okay.
yes on your call.
Oh, 8 more to start. So jump in.
It says waiting for 7 people. So let's see if we got in the same one.
Yep. We're in the same one.
I feel like these are filling all the time. But
all right. Yeah.
The worst
always,
is like I have no attention span sometimes. So the worst is like I also I stay up pretty late. So like 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, sometimes I'll start drafting, and I'll be on drafters, which isn't as popular as far as the traffic. And like it'll say like, there's 5 people left. Like, okay, whatever. And like I just get distracted and start watching the movie, and like there's no sound that lets me know. It's like probably got to turn on the notifications or whatever. But and then like all of a sudden it's like I'm in the 5th round drafting. Like, whoa, what's going on here? I just forget.
I will say, like to back up Dean's point there. Last night I sent him a show sheet, and I was looking at my email this morning when I woke up, and I saw an email from Dean at 3:45 requesting access from a different account. So I'm like, 3:45, Jesus, Dean, like, what were you doing last night? That's when I do my
best work. That's when I thrive. Like 3 o'clock in the morning is like peak me,
Yeah.
That's when you get me at my best. Where am I at? I'm in the 11 spot. I like the 11 spot. Do you have a favorite spot? I'll tell you, I'm curious. Do you have a favorite or least favorite spot? Because I prefer to be like 7 or 8, 7, 6, 7, 8. But 11's better than like 2 or 3, in my opinion.
With me, I kind of like the middle. I like being able to get a decent wide receiver in the middle and then having a decent one available on the way back. But I mean, I feel this year you can get lots of decent guys in that second round. So it really, like, I really don't feel like I have a preference.
You're up, by the way.
Yeah, let's see. I am pick 5 here. I got Tyreek Hill still available, so I'm just going to go with Tyreek there.
Yeah, that's what I would go with. I think that's a pretty. So my thing is like, okay, Cup. I don't know the difference between AJ Brown and CeeDee Lamb and St. Brown. I think they're all kind of sort of the same. And Diggs. So it's like I'm going to be able to get one of those guys at 11, and I probably can get Pollard. Maybe that's the hope. That's my hope, at least. I'm trying to. I want to get a top receiver, and Pollard is sort of the plan. I, again, as somebody that was not in this world until 3 weeks ago, as far as drafting, I could not believe that Pollard was going like 15, 16. All we cared about last year in DFS was like get rid of Zeke, and like the few times he was gone, it was just like you just play Pollard and that's it. You move on. I don't know why he's not as loved as he should be. I know there was a threat that like they might bring somebody in, they might bring back Zeke. Obviously, that's not happening. They still, I suppose, can bring somebody in.
Right.
There goes Bijan and Eckler. So Kelsey went at 10, which is a freaking steal, in my opinion. So here's the tricky thing. I like Brown. I like Lamb. I like Lamp. This is where I might take Pollard first because I think one of those receivers will be left for me, if that makes sense, right? I think they're more likely to be left for me than Pollard would because I think somebody's going to take at least one running back, Chubb or Barkley, and I should be left Brown, Lamb, Adams, and if I'm not, I'm tilting.
Usually Adams and Waddle's another good one that can like slip to you in that second round if the guys you want get taken. But it's wide receiver is huge demand this year, those early wide receivers. So that kind of explains the Pollard situation, why he's still available. Like it's faux pas or it's passe or whatever to faux pas. It's passe to be into running backs this year. So yeah, the wide receivers are in heavy demand. Like with CeeDee Lamb, he's one of my avoids this year, just because I don't like that Dallas team at all. I don't like the concept of Mike McCarthy running the offense. They lost Kellen Moore. It's just going to be a disaster. I think I'm not.
As you say that, and I don't think it's the worst take, but I'm going to double down for the first time, have Pollard and Lamb. I was hoping that Brown would be left for me.
Yeah.
I could take Adams. Should I take Adams or Lamb? Let's
I
take
would go with
Lamb.
Adams, honestly. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, if
we
you
got
take,
time
you
now.
make a case for, you can make a case for any of these guys. That's why it's like difficult to do these drafts and get it right. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, Adams last year, like dueling back and forth with Josh Jacobs for those 20-point DK weeks every week. Like I just remember you had to have one of those dudes in your lineups in order to have a good performance.
So you know how I was talking about how heavily owned I have some quarterbacks. I don't think I have any shares of Dak, and I'm not really a Dak believer.
I don't either. Yeah.
But I feel like I don't want to say obligated, but I feel like I probably should try and get him now that I have. Yeah, I'm already married. I'm already pot committed to Dallas. It seems. Also, one of my top receivers that I've been drafted this year is Brandon Cooks. I have a ton of Cooks. If your name is Cooks, I'm like a ton of it. Brandon Cooks, James Cook, although I know Dalvin Cook for the record. But for the most part, if you're a Cook, I'm in.
I just drafted Saquon Barkley, I think, for the first time. Like he slipped five spots past his ADP. So I mean, usually I'd take Olave there, but Barkley, I didn't have any exposure to him, and I don't mind getting exposure to him when he's at a discount. Yeah.
Now, are you thinking about getting a quarterback here? Is that something you're considering? Because if one is available, one of the top, you're an Eagles fan, right? How do you feel about Jalen Hurts? If you can get
what? I'm an Eagles fan, but I don't have a lot of confidence in them this year. I think that they're going to have I think they're going to have a much more difficult schedule. I think they're facing. I was reading the Warren Sharp book. Warren Sharp had them pegged as having the number 9 most difficult running schedule, and for a team that relies on running as much as they do, that's bad news. But also, he mentioned that Jalen Hurts is going to be facing a ton more zone defense and a lot more teams that give a lot of pressure, and those are the two things that he is weakest against. So it wasn't a really good case again in favor of Jalen Hurts. I think he'll still have a good season, a decent season. He'll be able to put up stats, but I think the Eagles in general, I was talking with Bob about this the other day. I just think they're in a situation where they just lost both their coordinators. They have a head coach who's not very good at adjusting to adversity. Like last year, the run stuffer ended up going out, and then Washington beat them by attacking the hole, and they couldn't adjust to it. So they had to pick up Ndamukong Suh and I can't remember the other guy they picked up. But in addition to that, like when Jalen Hurts got hurt towards the end of the season, they didn't win a single game. So just the adjustment ability, and of course Jalen Hurts falls to me, so I'm going to take him.
I was just going to say, if Allen and Jackson are still out there, how about that, Allen Jackson? If one of those guys falls to be a 35 overall, I will take it. My counterpoint to that, and who am I to besmirch Warren Sharp? Obviously, a super, super sharp guy, knows way more about football than I do. But one counter, first of all, strength of schedule is so fluid. You don't really know what you're going to see in week 10. Like, you have no clue. Like, you could guess, right? And we could be over-projecting, under-projecting. The other part is Philly last year blew out so many teams that Hurts was done after 2.5, 3 quarters. So maybe a little inefficiency would extend to 4 quarters of play, if that makes sense. I don't know.
Yeah.
If you're expecting that.
I think
last year with Hurts, he didn't play in the fourth, or just hand the ball off the entire time.
Yeah. I think my take is probably more towards like a betting take, like betting on the Giants or someone to take first in that division, than it is against like fantasy performance. But I just think that if there's a season where a guy is getting overhyped, you got a quarterback getting drafted in the 3rd round, which typically does not happen. Usually like last season you were getting Hurts in like the 6th round, for example, 5th, 6th round. So to be drafting him this early in a potentially volatile situation, that's kind of what I'm a little bit hesitant about. But if he's going to fall to you at a value, or if you're going to be able to get exposure to him while differentiating your lineups a little bit, then by all means, like grab him without hesitation. But Yeah. I
Metcalf
think
went at 33. I was sitting on Metcalf. He went at 33. 34, Jonathan Taylor. You could have Jonathan Taylor. Like
yeah.
what story are you telling yourself to like Jonathan Taylor? I guess if he stays at Indy and like that's his best opportunity.
Yeah.
I took Lamar at 35. And long story short,
Yeah.
I was sitting. Okay, I'm on the clock right now again, and I was sitting. Those are my guys on my queue. I have Mixon in there, but I don't love it. Judy, I don't. I think DJ Moore is the guy. Oh, you know what? Is it DJ Moore or Mike Williams? That's kind of where I'm at right now. I like Mixon a little bit, but I have a running back already, and I probably should get another receiver. Mike Williams, DJ Moore, or
I'm going Williams there.
I took Mixon.
Oh, you ended up with Mixon.
I didn't realize I did that.
Oh
Okay.
man, I think your time ran out on you, bud.
I was moving something around that that's not the
Yeah.
worst thing. That was not the plan. Okay.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to get some receivers
Mixon.
fast.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I don't have any Mixon this year. Like, what? No, did you at least get a value on him? Like, what's the?
38. Yeah, it's not. It's fine. I think he's a little under. I think he's undervalued right now. Just like he's a key piece attached to one of the better offenses in football, and he gets a ton of opportunity. And whatever legal issues appear to be gone are most likely behind him, right? I think. And I think that's one of the reasons why his ADP was hindered there for a while or suppressed for a while. I should have picked Williams or Moore, but instantly, like give or take, it's like 3 seconds after I submit my pick, I regret. Oh, I should have taken that guy. And I feel like I've done that two out of three picks already.
That's par for the course with best ball, man. Like I have regrets like every time I draft. Like there are pretty much a lot of picks that I draft too.
I'm really curious. JSN, where's JSN going to go? He's been going around 56. The news with his wrist, and I still don't fully understand. Like they're saying he probably has a decent chance of being ready. Wrist surgery after 2 months. There goes my camera again, right? I'm having some technical issues over here.
You're still there.
Okay. You know what? It's my side monitor, and the connection's not perfect, and the side monitor goes black. And that's what's bringing the picture back to my main screen. But okay, it just throws me off. But I'll work under these conditions.
Yeah, I do not like my options here. Like this is brutal. So I'm going to go with Hawkinson. I don't want to draft DeAndre Hopkins. He was like at the top of my queue along with Breece Hall. I got no interest in Breece Hall right now. I'm
with you on Hopkins. I don't get it. I don't understand why he's that high. It does not make any sense to me. But go ahead.
No, yeah. So I'm not like this draft is not going the way I would have wanted it to. I only have one receiver. I don't like to be this short on receivers like in the fourth round of drafts. But here we are. I got like one of each position at least. So, there's that's not too bad, but I'm going to be drafting heavily on wide receivers for the next foreseeable future.
Yeah, where do you think JSN goes? I have not drafted today to react to the news, but I'm going to say noted liar. I don't trust anything. Maybe this is more serious than it's being let on. I have no clue.
I think he drops around maybe 66 closer to but. I mean, if you don't have exposure to Jackson Smith-Njigba, now's the time to be getting your exposure because he probably will be ready for the beginning of the season, and you're going to be getting him at a discount. So now's the time to start scooping him up if the market overreacts to it. If the market stays put, then maybe if you're exposed to Smith-Njigba already and have a decent amount of exposure, maybe now's the time to pump the brakes a little bit and focus on somebody else in that spot. But yeah, he's definitely should move on that news, you would think. So I would say he goes down maybe a round or half a round
70,
or something.
Like 70-ish. And also somebody just might not know. Like, it's pretty the news is pretty fresh. So somebody in the draft is not going to be aware. And I think Lockett has been kind of evaluated 60, 61, 62 this entire time, and maybe moves up a little bit. Let's see. Who did you just take? You took Pickens. Okay.
Pickens, yeah. Pickens is one of my guys I'm targeting this year. He's I think he's in a great spot, and Pickett his quarterback's been getting a lot of good reviews in the preseason so far. So it looks like he's outperforming in the preseason. So we'll see what happens when the actual season starts. But he was a guy on your list, wasn't he, Dean, of one of your highest owned quarterbacks?
Yeah, because he's kind of like I've been using either him or Howell as like my either quarterback 2 or quarterback 3, or sometimes getting them at 2-3. Like have like elite quarterback, and this is probably more so where I'm drafting 20 on drafters or DK. But or if I don't like anything else, I'll just get myself a third quarterback. But he's got legs. I expect improvement. He's got cheap guys to pair him with. Like I'm not proud of it, but I have some Allen Robinson shares. So like round 18. I like the tight ends as well. I'm losing his name for some reason. Fryermuth. And I have a ton of Warren. So Pittsburgh's not necessarily a team I want to hitch my wagon to, but it's like a second or third cheap stack. I'm up, by the way, and Lockett's still on the board, and I think I'm going to take Lockett. It's at 59. It just feels really safe. Madison's there. I don't really need a running back. I love James Cook, and I'm just not going to get him in this draft because I go with 59 and 62, and he's going to be gone on the way back, and I'm not going to reach here because I already have 2 running backs. But Lockett is.
Smith-Njigba, by the way, went ahead of ADP, so he didn't even take a dent on this particular draft. So maybe that news hasn't filtered out.
Correct. Yeah.
Widely as we would have thought.
Let's see. I'm on the clock again in a second. Herbert going 5-12, man. I like that spot. I'm a big fan of Herbert this year. I'm a big fan of that Chargers offense in general. Last year he was playing Hurts, and he can move a little bit. You like the legs, and he doesn't have like the legs of like some of the elite guys, but he can give you a little bit of legs. And of course, that arm is completely ridiculous, and they should probably let him, unleash it a little bit more than they have in years past. All right, I think I'm taking Mike Evans. I know it's not a sexy pick, but it's Evans or Gabe Davis or Addison, or I can pair with Flowers. I think I can get Flowers on the way back, maybe, and if not Flowers, I can get Bateman at some point.
Yeah. This stretch of running backs right here is why I don't like drafting running backs in the first couple rounds, because I like Pierce, I like Dobbins, and I like Williams. I like all those guys, and I'm trying to get like a couple of those guys on each team. But since I already have Barkley, I'll probably try to get just one. But even then, like I'm so thin at wide receiver. I only have Tyreek and sorry, just fixing the screen. Tyreek and Pickens right now. So, I still am very thin at wide receiver. I want to make sure that I boost that position up a little bit more because it gets thin after the 10th round, like you were saying, Dean. So you want to make sure that your wide receiver exposure is good leading into that 10th round.
Javonte, I'm just kind of concerned. As a general rule, I don't like betting on guys coming back from like really crazy injuries in the first year. It's sort of baked into the ADP. Like if he was healthy, this is a guy who would probably be, a second or third rounder. And I've been getting P-Ryan just when you consider like, the value and just like P-Ryan you can get in the 11th or so. But yeah, I love the talent. I just don't know how much they're going to push him. But allegedly he's going to be ready for week 1. So good for him for his full recovery. From an ACL. I believe it was an ACL, I'm pretty sure. I don't know how much they push him, but, running backs these days, there's committees all over the place. So I like it in theory. I like Montgomery around this spot. I like Swift around this spot. I just like good players attached to good offenses. It's like that's it. You mentioned Dobbins. I don't love Dobbins. I think he's fine. Doesn't catch the ball. He's another guy that had the injury last year. Good stats when he was out there, but I just think I want Lamar. I want everything. I think Lamar dictates everything, and there's other running backs lurking in Baltimore. I think he's fine. I know a lot of people out there are touting Dobbins, so I'm probably against the grain. But just where he's at, I'm not buying. You're coming up like in 5 spots. Oh, go ahead.
Towards the end of the season last year, he was just coming alive. I think he was recovering from the injury that he had, couple that made him miss the season a couple years ago. So I mean, it's like you said, like the first year back, like these running backs and these players take a little while to recover from those knee injuries. So I give him a pass on last season, but like towards the end of the season, he was coming alive, and I think that he can carry that on into this season. I think he's going to have a decent year this year, and they have that new offensive coordinator. They're saying that they're going to let Lamar throw more.
Yeah.
So, like if they change up that offense and the running backs are getting a little bit more runs and Lamar Jackson's getting a little bit less. Like, I mean, who knows what the dynamic of this offense is going to be this year? But I do like Dobbins this season. Let's see, it's my turn now,
What are you
and
debating?
I'm gonna draft Dobbins there. I don't like any of the wide receivers in this range. So that's why I went with a running back, even though I feel like I'm a little thin on wide receiver right now. If I have oh shit, Dobbins and Barkley have the same bye week, so I didn't pay attention to that. I shouldn't have drafted
Bye week's overrated. There goes. I was thinking about Goddard, but there goes Goddard. A few picks before. I did not
Yeah.
get Cook. He went 74 overall. I'm coming up on a few. Brandon Cooks is like my default here, and
Yeah.
I'm probably married to Dallas, so if he comes to me, I'm going to probably take him. There's a gap now at tight end, so I can't take Ingram. I'm not taking Freiermuth. So tight end's a no-go for me. I could take Montgomery. Kamara is interesting. He was suspended for 3 games. Swift is interesting. I really want Cooks to fall to me. I like Cortland Sutton as maybe like on the wraparound. I think he's going a little underdrafted. 92, I think, is probably a little too low for him, although I don't want to be too attached to Russ. Russ might be fully cooked. It's possible. Let's see. We've got one more pick till I go. Hopefully I can get Brandon Cooks. Right before I pick, it's Brandon Cooks. He goes. And now I go in the full scramble mode. Elijah Moore, he's fine. Sky Moore's fine, but I like to pick him when I have Mahomes. Jeez, I'm thrown off.
Yeah,
so I'm gonna take.
Yeah. See, this is what I'm talking about, man. You got some tough decisions to make when you get towards the back end of the wide receiver ones.
I took Sutton, and I figured one of these running backs will be left for me. Kamara just went, and I'll take whatever's left of Montgomery and Swift. I like both those guys plenty, and that'll.
What do you think of White?
I think he's fine. I just think that offense could be a disaster, but I think he's fine.
Yeah.
But I just have Montgomery and Swift ahead of him. Who do I prefer amongst those two is the question. Don't know. These are both offenses I want to be attached to. This is where I wish I had this is where I would think about week 17. It's like a coin toss tiebreaker.
Well, what's your bye week? What's your bye weeks on your running backs? Like that's another tiebreaker. Usually, if I have a guy in the same bye week, I'll just go with the other one.
Pollard and Mixon are both bye week number 7, but again, I don't stress bye weeks. Like I don't think that's. I think that's like too much attention is paid to that. Is it nothing? I guess it's not nothing, and it's another tiebreaker if you want it, but I don't really care.
Yeah,
that's not going to be the difference between I'm winning and losing. That I had too many guys on bye one week. Like I wasn't going to get that. That's what breaks me.
I don't know, man. I kind of, I've been in those situations before where we hit a bye week and I was really thin at a position and I had like my 2 main starters on that bye. And, when you're sitting there going into let's say week 13 this year, there's a lot of guys on bye in week 13 and both your starting running backs are on a bye. And then like your backups are like Tajay Sharp and, like Kareem Hunt. Like someone who we don't even know is going to be on a team. You can get really thin at that position. It can hurt you.
This, by the way, is kind of we're entering that moment where around 100, 105, 110, where the receivers are rough. Michael Thomas, I've not drafted yet.
I was just looking at him. Yeah,
I just don't. It's been good like in 2020, like 2019. There's so many injuries, and like he's not the number one. He's not the alpha anymore. It's a different quarterback. I guess it gets all baked in, but I just don't want any part of that situation. I don't really like Beckham, although I do have Lamar, but I just don't trust Beckham's going to do it. Bateman's there for me but he's probably going to be gone in 13 picks. I would take him if he's still standing. And I like the running back value at this point, kind of like we're talking about it now, where Gibson at 100, Charbonnet around 100. I like P. Ryan I've talked about. Bigsby is going to get a share there in Jacksonville. I'm a buyer on Bigsby. I know obviously he's at the number one with ETN. And Jalen Warren, if he comes back to me, I'll probably take Jalen Warren because I love Jalen Warren. I'll take him at like 110, which I think is, I probably could get him there. And that's how kind of have it mapped. I got to kind of map it out. That's why I've been getting a lot of like Tyler Boyd because he's fine. And he's like the best receiver in this area. Nico Collins is fine. Lazard is fine. These are guys I'm just kind of landing on. But nobody I love. I wish this is always like kind of like where I get thrown into a bit of a pickle. I could take Freiermuth at 108, at 107 possibly. But there's so many stops along the way at tight end that I like. Ideally I want to have a good tight end, but otherwise I might just pick three of the darts, and somebody's going to get me there every week theoretically.
Yeah. I'm going for the guys that I feel have the most upside as opposed to security right now. Just based on my thin start at the top, I want to try to make up for that with some upside. And the guys that I see right now that I feel have the most upside are probably, Michael Thomas just got taken. So I'm going to go with Beckham here. Let me look and see if there's any other receivers that I'm interested in. I don't see any other receivers standing up.
Jameson Williams is injured. Like, when is that ever going to happen? I don't want any part of that.
Yeah.
Like maybe the guy that and I can see the best ball bros saying like, well, when he comes back, in week 7, week 8, week 10, or week 15 and 16, 17, the playoffs when it matters, that's when he's going to be hitting his stride. Which maybe, I don't know. But
he hasn't done anything. Like he hasn't done anything at the NFL level, which is like a little concerning. But yeah, I mean, he was coming back from a knee injury last year, just like we were talking about with these other guys. But I mean, he's coming back this season, like he's missing 6 games, like in a year that he's supposed to be, kind of getting back up to speed on playing. And I mean, he's just off to a rough start for the beginning of his NFL season. So it's not looking very promising for that guy.
This is where I'm supposed to take Tyler Boyd, right? I'm on the clock at 107. Tight end gap. I can take Kincaid, but no, I think I'm supposed to take Tyler Boyd here, because or Collins. Juju is so unsexy. Lazard, but I think it's Boyd. I just keep cheap piece attached to a good offense. That's it.
Yeah.
I know he's like the third option.
Well, this is typically like, depending on how many running backs I would have, this is where I'd be looking more for running backs. But you already have 3, so I totally get why you were just going to go with a wide receiver there.
Also, I'm on the clock again, and I'm taking Jalen Warren. I knew I was taking Jalen Warren on the wraparound. So I felt pretty good this guy wasn't going to take him because he had like 4 running backs already. So I didn't think he would take Jalen Warren. Yeah. That's an important thing. It's like, understanding where you're at. Like if you're looking to take a quarterback and you're like in the 10 spot and you see 11 and 12 already have their, they have Hurts and Mahomes. That's unlikely because it's probably a better example of 3 and 1, 2 with those guys. But the point is still the same. Like understand that you could just wait 5 picks and very, very likely every once in a while you get somebody goofy. I had somebody the other day. 3 of their first 5 picks were quarterbacks, and I'm just like, what's going on here, man?
Yeah.
Like you just get somebody and they just don't know what they're doing because the sexy names. It's like, oh man, I can get Mahomes, I can get Lamar and Fields. Like, oh my God, championship. But like they don't understand how best ball works. But yeah, so typically though, it's very, very important, and like I do that with tight ends as well. It's like, okay, this guy has a top tight end. You never really can fully predict, but you can kind of sort of gauge. You could steal a few picks basically. It's like, okay, I don't have to go here. I can wait on that because nobody here is taking a tight end. And that's another benefit from being, in the 10 spot or the 2 spot, that kind of thing. Because you only have to focus on a couple teams.
So I'm looking at my correlation possibilities here, and it's not looking very good. It looks like I'm kind of, if I want to get some sort of a correlation with Jalen Hurts, it might have to be at the like the running back position, and then just hope that they just
Gainwell. You can get Gainwells, but like I don't not at one team. Maybe next time around.
Yeah, I'm going with Penny here. Penny is my first one, and then like I'm probably going to be looking at Gainwell on the way back because I like to take 2 out of the 3 Eagles running backs if I'm going to go with Eagles running back, because we don't know how that backfield is going to play out, and most likely there'll probably be a significant like timeshare there. The problem with DeAndre Swift is he's going too early for a 3-man backfield, and he's also kind of proven over the last couple of years that he just doesn't have that drive in him, like with Detroit. Like Detroit should have been the perfect opportunity for that dude to just like launch his career, and instead like they end up basically giving him up for a 4th round pick. Like so they basically gave him away to the Eagles. And so far in camp, like it seems like Gainwell is the one who's getting the traction as the quarterback over there, even though they brought in Penny and Swift. But I can see why Gainwell is the guy over there, just because he's pretty much been with the team for like 3-4 years now. He was a guy that was getting a lot of hype when he first came in the league too. They took it slow with him. Last year during the playoff run, he was a significant part of that. So the coaches and the team loves him. And, like this could be the year that Gainwell gets his opportunity to break out a little bit.
The thing is, like, that's the thing. You don't even know how to read the beat stuff, because your point is correct on Gainwell, but maybe the reason why he was getting so many reps is because of familiarity. And and maybe they want to conserve some of the other guys. I saw another beat saying there's a chance that Penny might get cut. I don't know if you saw that. Like they said, there's a chance. They only have $600K committed to him, and like he's running right now as the 4th running back. And again, you don't really know what this stuff means. You're trying to dissect what is real and what is not. And like 80% of it might be nonsense. 20% of it actually matters. And the tricky part is figuring out what is legit and what isn't. But according to the beats, at least one was saying like, hey, it wouldn't shock me if they just cut Penny. They're not committed to him money-wise. And the other thing, by the way, you mentioned being part of a running back committee. Guess what? It's 3rd and goal at the half-yard line. You know who the running back is for Philadelphia? It's Jalen Hurts. Hurts is going to run it in. So that's why I want a piece. You have Hurts already. Give me those 1 yard tush push, whatever you call it, right? That nonsense play where you just they push him in there and it's an easy touchdown. And he's the RB1 at the goal line. So it's a committee. Now, if you can get Gainwell in like the 13th, 14th, 15th round, sure, of course, because options are limited. He's going to have those spike weeks. He's going to have he's the 2-minute drill guy allegedly. So, and like a nice little pairing and, a little correlation with Hurts. But I don't know what to do with Philadelphia, but it is a great offense to be attached to. That's why just give me Hurts, because he's running the ship. He's always going to be a part of it.
Yeah. It's really tough to get a stack with them early on in the draft, because unless you kind of go off of ADP, you can draft AJ Brown maybe in the mid first, and then take Hurts on the way back, and then like if you're lucky, Devontae will fall to you in the 3rd round. But typically the way that they kind of play out, it's very I won't say it's tough to get a stack like with Hurts, but I just don't like investing that much that early in those receivers. But getting Devontae at the back end of the 2nd round, the beginning of the 3rd round isn't too bad. But that kind of is gonna hinder your opportunity to stack him with Hurts, because you usually got to take Hurts in that area. So it's an interesting situation with the Eagles this year, but if you don't get one of those wide receivers in those first couple rounds, then you're kind of struggling for a stack. Because I don't like Goddard this year. I don't like Goddard either. Like
Why
really
not?
this year,
I think he's
I
fine.
don't. I don't. He just hasn't done anything, like, and he's going in the like sixth, seventh round. Like, so he's way too expensive for what he's accomplished. Like, I don't feel like he's ever paid off his ADP, and I'd rather go with a guy like Darren Waller or someone like that, like where Goddard is going, or one of the guys that I've drafted the most is Hawkinson, because I can get him in like the fourth, fifth round, and I think that he's going to have a big enough role in that offense so that he's competing for tight end one overall this year. You know what I mean? And he showed a lot of chemistry right off the bat, like coming into Minnesota this year. They picked up Jordan Addison. There's going to be some, obviously some more target competition, but Hawkinson's going to be a big part of that offense. He could be the second leading receiver in that offense this year.
Yeah, I like him. If you extrapolate his numbers from last season, obviously there's that one outlier game where you'll hit almost like 200 yards, that 70-yard touchdown. But I like him a good bit. I like, again, that defense should be horrific. They're playing in a dome, checks the boxes. If I don't get Andrews, I think there's a gap, right? There's Kelsey, gap, Andrews, gap, Hawkinson, gap. If I don't get those top three, I'm okay if I get the right spot, maybe the right pairing to get a guy like Goddard you're talking about. I've seen Pitts really drop some drafts, so I've grabbed him around 90 or so just because I don't love him. I love the ability, but also reports on him is like he's blocking too much apparently, which is, you don't get any fantasy points for pancakes. That's kind of a Kittle's thing. Kittle is spectacular, but they let him block too much. But I like Kittle if I listen to him. But I just think that I've yet to draft a tight end, and I'm not panicking just yet, right? Because I still have I like Sam Laporta. I like Chig on Tennessee. Juwan Johnson for New Orleans. I'm good with Ferguson. I like Musgrave. And just trying to get two or three of these guys is the plan. And, if plan A is like if you fall into a spectacular tight end, great. The deal with the other stuff. But I'm going to have to draft 3 late tight ends, I think.
I just spaced out, and I forgot Gainwell was still available, so I went and drafted Sharp
I left
instead.
him for you. I was leaving you Gainwell. I was thinking about it. I'm like, I'll leave him.
Now I got to see if he comes back to me. I totally spaced, man. I wasn't even paying attention. I should have had him in my queue.
I have 7 wide receivers, which is a lot. But I should probably start. Yeah. Go ahead. You have 6.
Yeah, I like to come out of it with, like at least 8, typically. Like 7 feels a little thin. Like would feel thin for me on this one, just because I got a late start on my wide receivers. If I'm drafting them heavily at the top, if I had like 5 receivers in the first like 6 rounds, say, then I would definitely pump the brakes and probably end up with maybe like seven receivers total. Because at that point, you need to make up ground on your other positions later in these rounds. But yeah, I just don't feel like my wide receiver start was hot enough. So I'm going to try to get like 8 wide receivers probably in this draft.
I have if Russ falls to me, I'm obligated to take Russ, which is terrible because I now have Sutton and Mims. But and I Mims is one of my favorite value plays. I think he's just too low. And again, the guys that are around him are not spectacular. I think his upside's pretty sharp. He's in 3 wide. Denver, of course, has dealt with several. Hamler, and there's another guy I can't think of off the top of my head. It's thinned out as far as the depth receiver for Denver. And if you're expecting a Wilson bounce back, obviously Peyton's being there. It can't be any worse than the aforementioned Hackett season. And I can get Russ. If I can get Russ at 155, I'm not like obsessed with ADP. He's number 1 guy there as far as quarterback. And this is where I'm kind of looking at it. And there's 2 guys in front of me that have just 1 quarterback, so he's probably going to get taken by one of those 2. But we'll see. Let's see. This guy's got. Yeah, this guy only has Kenny Pickett, so he might take him right now. Wouldn't surprise me. And this other guy is Mahomes. He doesn't need Russ. But this guy, the guy with just Pickett, I think he's picking a quarterback here. We'll see. This is kind of what I'm staring at and just trying to figure out. And the guy behind me is too. Oh, he did take a quarterback, but he took Brock Purdy.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like Purdy. Like he's been showing up. Yeah. Like he looked good in his first preseason game, and he looks like the surgery hadn't really hindered him too much. So if he comes out playing like he did at the end of last season, then he's going to end up being a pretty good value in these late rounds. But that's all predicated that he plays like he did last. But the 49ers have another easy strength of schedule. I know we don't put I mean you may not necessarily put too much emphasis on that, but I for me that's like one of the biggest reads into how I do these drafts is just kind of seeing how those strength of schedule is projected. I like to take offenses in those teams that are kind of in the middle of the strength of projection, so it's not too easy and not too difficult. Like we want the teams to be challenged to put up points, and if you get a team with a schedule that's too easy, there's a good chance that they'll end up like the Eagles did last year. Eagles last year, I think Sharp had them as the easiest projected schedule, and they ended up like we saw, first half of the game, they were putting up points, and then they were just coasting for the second half of the game. So you left a lot of points on the table there.
Yeah. I took Russ begrudgingly, but you're not a best ball, bro. If they take away your official license if you don't take Russ when you have, you already have Mims and you already have Sutton, and Russ is there at 155, and I only have one quarterback. Like that right there, my license will be revoked. I gotta pair them together per law. That's just how that goes. But it was good value. And I also took Johnson for New Orleans. Juwan Johnson's one of my favorites at tight ends. He's my first. I'm probably going to take two more. One of my interesting conundrums is I have Lamar, and like the thought process of Isaiah Likely. Like nobody, feel free to dispute. Nobody has a bigger potential upside through injury in the tight end position than Isaiah Likely. If Andrews goes out, he will jump in that role. We saw him in the chances he had last year. He was really, really solid. But if he's not, like if Andrews is healthy, Likely's kind of worthless, right? Like you might fall into a touchdown here and there, but basically nothing. Do you take Likely when you have – like I've done it before. I backed up Andrews at Likely. I've done that. I know you're not – again, people have opinions on that, but – I just feel like if you lose Andrews, then all of a sudden likely he's 80-90% of them, so he's still really good, and it's kind of insurance. But if you have Lamar and no Andrews, do you take Likely? Is kind of the question I'm thinking about right now. And the answer is probably not, but maybe. There goes Sam Howell. Somebody else. That's you. You took Sam Howell, you big nerd. He was the next guy.
I grabbed Sam Howell. I had Jahan Dotson. I'm struggling for correlation in this draft. So I had to kind of pull the trigger. I knew that Dean had him on his list of guys to take, so I had to get it before Dean got it. So I mean that's why I drafted him like 20 spots ahead of 80 because I knew I'd have to snipe him off Dean.
Yeah, no, he was definitely in the queue, and I was definitely taking him next time around. I don't need it's not a pressing need because I have Lamar and Russ, and Lamar theoretically should be good. But I still might add a third. We'll see. It depends upon. I only have 4 running backs, which is kind of concerning. There's not much left to choose from.
Yeah.
But I think I'm starting pretty strong with Pollard and Mixon. I think Spears is a really, really interesting flyer, but it could be a big zero. I'm not on Henry this year. Spears, in small sample, has flashed his ability. He looks like the guy. Like if an opportunity opens up, if something happens to Henry, I think Spears can be the guy. So he's like a late round target. Chandler's a guy like an 18th rounder. Jerome Ford has tumbled in drafts, but it looks like they're optimistic he'll be available week 1. We'll see. Stay tuned. Maybe he takes over that Hunt role. That's been it's no longer there. Obviously, Kareem's no longer in Cleveland. But it's slim pickings. Kendra Miller looks pretty good, but New Orleans they signed Jamal Williams and they have Kamara, so it's kind of cluttered. There's not a lot to get excited about, is the long story short when it comes to RBs right now. And who was the other flyer that I had on my queue? Roshan Johnson was another guy that he's gone and kind of missed out on the running back. I'm going to need Pollard. So the rule is, right, the best ball rules is, and I actually, it makes a lot of sense, like draft like you're right. Draft like you're right. And if I'm right, Pollard and Mixon are a great 1-2 combination, and I'm not going to need a ton of depth at running back, right? And if they both
Yeah.
collapse, then I'm done anyway. So what's the point? So,
Right.
yeah. All right. Who did you take recently? Shaheed.
Um, yeah, Raheed Shaheed. He's one of the guys that was coming alive towards the end of last season. Really was a deep ball guy for the Saints, and he showed up towards the end of the season, and I just think he's one of those perfect second year breakout candidates. He's got Derek Carr now as his quarterback, so lateral to upgrade over what he was dealing with last year, but you know I think Shaheed's going to have a decent season this year. I think he's definitely one of those good year two breakout candidates, and he's overshadowed by Olave because Olave was another rookie last year, and he was the one that got drafted much earlier than Shaheed did, and Olave ended up having his breakout season last year. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to see what Shaheed does this year. I think he's definitely got talent, and he showed flashes last year, and I think he's going to be a good candidate this year. Late round too. Like you get him really late. You get him in the 16th, 15th round right now.
Yeah, I like that flyer. I just saw Murray go. I think there's a really real chance that Kyler Murray plays 0 snaps this season. So
Yep, agree.
I don't think they have a lot of interest in rushing him back. I don't think they have a lot of interest
No,
in winning football games this season. So I am not
zero
drafting
incentive.
any Murray.
Yeah, zero incentive to get Murray back. Like, and I'm 100% with you. Like, it's kind of there was a quarterback a couple years ago that we thought he was going to get suspended or he was going to miss a good chunk of the season and play a few games at the end. So you were basically taking a flyer on him playing a few games at the end of the season, and then he ended up just being awful. Like when he came back, or actually no, I think he didn't. This quarterback didn't come back at all. So you took the gamble on him making it back before the end of the season, and then he never played. I think it was Deshaun Watson a couple years ago, not last year, but like a couple
Okay.
years ago. Yeah,
He was so bad last year. The reports
yeah.
aren't great preseason for what it's worth.
Mhm.
He is running a lot though, which is like again, you can cover a lot of nonsense up. You can cover up a lot of bad with legs.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
like I said with Richardson, same sort of deal. I think he's going to be a good fantasy asset, and maybe that's why I don't really love the Cleveland receivers because I don't know the Watson situation as far as passing, but they're a running team, and I think he's going to run as well. Um, I have very little shares for what it's worth. I'm just like I said before, I'm mostly getting flyers in the end, or
Mhm.
I'm getting Lamar, or if I land on Mahomes and I pair him with Kelsey, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
And the other one I've been getting a lot of is Herbert, but
yeah.
yeah,
I'm kind of, I'm taking those early round quarterbacks if the right one falls, like in the right spot. Otherwise, I don't mind waiting until that tier where you can get Burrow and Herbert, and worst case as the kind of fail safe. I got Watson and Richardson, so you still have that rushing upside in the later rounds. I'm kind of taking the opposite stance as you on Watson. I think Watson, will figure it out again this year, and I think the discount that you're getting him at right now, relative to where we saw him before he started missing all that time, he's a top five quarterback before he was out, maybe a top three quarterback before he was out. So, I think he'll pick that back up eventually. I just think that, yeah. I mean, like you're saying, like he's rusty as hell right now. It's gonna take some work, but I think he's got that potential.
we both have the same build. Last two picks, we're both 2-5-7-2. Two quarterbacks, five running backs, seven receivers, two tight ends. I think I'm going to get another tight end because I don't have an elite one. I'm considering a third quarterback, but I probably don't need one. And if I do, like my team's dead anyway. Like the quarterbacks that are left are Tannehill, Garoppolo, Stroud, Ritter. Jones, Mac. What are you waiting on? I have one tight
I
end in the
am,
queue. I'm not sure where else I'm going.
yeah, I don't like the options right now. I'm going to go with Khalil Shakir. There was a lot of buzz about him last year. He hasn't been that great in preseason this year, but he's another guy. You know, maybe when we get in a game environment, he just figures it out and he starts picking things up a little bit. But yeah, he's a guy that I've been drafting a decent amount of. Uh, there's
My late round
Rasheed
flyers
Rice.
have been like Downs, Robert Woods, who just he got paid in Houston and he's going to be on the field. Allen Robinson's going to be on the field. If Hollins is going to be on the field, if you happen to have any Ritter, if you want to get like a cheap late stack, you can get like Ritter Hollins at 17, 18. You know, that's something you want to do. Just these are just guys that like again you don't feel great about. Josh Palmer is somebody that if I have Herbert is a flyer that I attach to myself to sometimes. If you have Rodgers, I'll take Corey Davis. Um, if I have Goff, I'll consider Josh Reynolds. I won't be happy about it. I'm going to take Noah Fant. So now I have three receivers that are hoping for Russ to bounce back. Because I have Mims, Sutton, and now I'm going to take Noah Fant as my third tight end.
Yeah, I like that.
Juwan Johnson, Knox, and Fant are my tight ends. I guess we'll break down our teams when we finish. And my last
Yeah,
pick,
I like. Yeah,
go ahead.
go ahead. Oh, I
I'm
like
thinking of taking
taking
Ty Chandler.
Ty Chandler. Gotcha.
Just
Yeah,
because, he's a flyer with upside, and that's kind of what
yeah,
I think I'm a little bit thin at running back. Um,
yeah.
And I don't think a quarterback would make a huge difference. Like if I have to rely on Ritter and Tannehill, that's what's left. Yeah. Hopefully
Yeah.
Lamar and Russ is good enough. There goes Woods, by the way, one of the receivers I was talking about.
Yeah.
So I would have 6 running backs, and it falls off pretty quickly for me. Like I consider Chase Brown like a direct backup to Mixon, probably. I don't know if he would become like the work. I just think Chandler's got a bigger upside than Brown. Let's go with Chandler.
Yeah, I like that pick. I like drafting 3 tight ends in these drafts, even though I have Hawkinson early. I got an elite tight end early. I still like taking 3 because like that position is just so volatile. Like it's volatile
Yes.
in performance, it's volatile in injuries. You know, like the worst is when you get deep into a season and both your tight ends are hurt and you're sitting there putting up goose eggs in the tight end position. So I've kind of learned over the past few years to make sure you draft three tight ends in these drafts, no matter what.
So your options are I was going to Otten, Kate Otten is okay.
Yeah, he's the
If
guy
you
I'm
want
looking for.
the likely dart again, that's the big upside. Mayer, the rookie for Vegas, is supposed to be pretty good. It's supposed to be like an historic draft class for tight ends, but he's kind of blocked right now by. It's a weird. What's the guy that used to be a tight end for Atlanta? I think is the tight end for Vegas. No, who am I thinking of? Jeez, I'm gonna get there in a second. I apologize. I know every team's depth chart memorized. Austin Hooper is apparently blocking him right now, which seems ridiculous.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
and I assume that the later we get into the season, Mayer probably opens up a little bit. But and Trey McBride, I guess is I guess he's gone undrafted. I've seen people tout if you really want to get goofy and if you have your Sam Howell stacks. I like Howell pairing him with Samuel late. Both those guys really late. And if you really want to get goofy, adding Cole Turner. I've seen some Cole Turner hype out there. I don't know a lot about him. I know Spike Week, the RG brand, was talking about, this is like ambitious stuff and you're shooting to just nobody has Cole Turner basically. 215 is his ADP. He falls behind a bunch of these guys. But did you have Richardson?
Richardson, I did not know.
Okay. I was going to say you could attach Woods to him, but again, it's volatility that Indianapolis tight ends.
Yeah, Woods is another good flyer at the end there because like he looked like a stud every time he had an opportunity, and that dude's a beast. Like he's a freaking beast. So yeah, I would not be surprised if he has a decent season. Like because Richardson, you got to figure He's going to be relying a decent amount on the tight ends this year. So he could form a chemistry. I haven't really been following what he's been doing in the training camp. Like,
Yeah.
have you heard anything about Woods' performance in training camp this year?
No, nothing I can speak to. No,
Yeah,
but like I've seen him, like you said, in a small sample. When the ball's in his hands, like, man, this guy should get the ball in his hands more. This guy
yeah,
looks like he's a tough cover. But
yeah.
also, like, Mo Alley Cox is still lurking. They have a dude named Kylan Granson, but I think he's just a blocking tight end. Pretty sure. Um, but yeah, one reception. Was that last season? Yeah, I'm not sure if he's a rookie or not. Well, he's 25 years old, so he's probably not a rookie. But yeah, I'm looking. I pulled up their depth chart, and I'm not aware of Kylan Granson. Probably a blocking tight end, or I'm not certain. I could be misspeaking.
Yeah.
It's just a little cluttered, and I don't know if I want a tight end, committee with Indianapolis, like all that stuff stuck together. But I agree.
Yeah, no.
He would pop up. He's interesting.
Yeah, I think if you're gonna take any of those guys, I'd take Jelani Woods in the 18th round. There's no upside with Mo Alley Cox. We've seen him, like, we've been hoping for his upside for what, like 5 years now, and dude has not delivered. Jelani Woods, he came in out of nowhere last year, and he had a bunch of flashes. Kind of like Chig, same type of style playing, like just one of those guys that's just like lights it up when he catches the ball. Chig was the second tight end that I drafted, and last year playing showdown, I remember the first time I saw that guy play, and he just like caught that something like a 30-yard pass, like down the seam, and he was just like, the guy he looked electric, like, and you could tell that he was going to be a significant player. And then the next few games, it was like every single game he was catching like a 40-yard pass or touchdown. So you could kind of see that guy was going to be something significant. And the fact that he's going pretty late too. He's going at ADP of 152. So if you're just getting started in drafting, and you maybe you're not as familiar with best ball or this deep into the tight end pool, like, definitely consider Chig Okonkwo, because I think he's going to have a decent breakout season this year. Especially.
I like him as well. I like the Hopkins. Like, as far as ADP, like I was really in the Burks. I think you grabbed Burks as well. I'm a little bit concerned about his injury, and that's why I've I pumped the brakes. But I was drafting him a good bit. And I was talking about, I hate the receivers around 100 or so. Burks was the one that was what I was liking, but I'm a little bit concerned with that injury. We'll see how he is. Hopefully, he's good to go to start the season. But I mean, Burks is ascending, and Hopkins is descending. But Chiga as well is also another ascending piece in this team. And I have no interest in Hopkins, but Burks and Chig are both interesting to me.
Which makes Tennessee's passing game pretty interesting, because we also obviously, Derrick Henry's not getting any younger, and the past couple of years we've seen his body breaking down a bit. They have Tajay Sharp as his backup now, but maybe this is I doubt it, but like, maybe we get a year where the passing game does a little something in Tennessee. I'm probably a little bit too overexposed in this lineup, but on the off chance that the passing game comes through this year, then my lineups will be pretty well positioned for that. I didn't go with Tannehill as a third quarterback just because I had Hurts and Howell. And if I'm going to invest in one of these one-off positions like the quarterback or tight end, I'd rather have 3 tight ends than 3 quarterbacks, just because of the injury potential with the tight end position, and like the volatility week to week with the scoring there. So that's typically, this is a build that I'll do, like 2 quarterbacks, 5 running backs, 8 wide receivers, and 3 tight ends. It's not even intentional. It's not really intentional either that I just kind of fall in these builds. It's just kind of what I've learned in the past on these positions, which ones to kind of have more exposure to, and which ones to kind of pump the brakes on a little bit, depending on how it's going early on in the draft.
The tricky thing with Tennessee is I saw somebody talking about this. I know you're a big fan of strength of schedule stuff, and you were talking about it earlier, and I don't really know. Like it's just like I don't know how easy or hard it's going to be, and we'll see. And stay tuned. And I understand there's a way to gauge it to some degree, but somebody was talking about how Tennessee before their bye in Week 7, there's a chance they could be like 1-6 going into that bye. It's kind of a tough start as far as their schedule. And what if they're 1-6? Do they make a change? Does Tannehill all of a sudden get the boot and they go with the young quarterback and then all of a sudden you have to assume the efficiency of the offense is going to get downgraded and they're thinking about the future and that kind of thing. And again, you're supposed to draft as if you're correct, but there is a path where I think this Tennessee season could go completely awry. And you mentioned Henry. I have it's scary. It's very scary, but I think I have 0 shares of Derrick Henry. I may have once at 22 or something like that, but I'm just not really in on it. They're supposed to have a bottom 5, bottom 3 offensive line. You mentioned Henry is 29. I understand. D Hember is a thing. I understand. He has those 70-yard runs, and in DFS when you don't have him, when he breaks off those 2 70-yarders in the same game, you close the old laptop and you fire up Netflix. But I am betting against him this year.
Yeah.
At cost, right? If he was there at 30, sure. But that's not where he's at right now. But
just to answer your strength of schedule question, Warren Sharp has them currently as number 7 easiest schedule for Tennessee, but they're tied with Jacksonville and Chicago for that number 7 spot. So it looks relatively easy, but like you said, you don't know if the season it could start off pretty difficult. Like you said, they have that tough run of games, and then just eases up at the end, and then they end up with the 7th easy.
So first game of the season at New Orleans, they're going to be a dog, right? Second game at home versus LA, the Chargers. The Chargers probably find a way to lose this game. 1 o'clock guy, 1 o'clock game on the East Coast, and the Chargers just are incredible at finding really, really goofy ways to lose. But they're probably a 3-point dog at home. At Cleveland's not an easy game versus Cincinnati. Indy's the one pushover, and then they have Baltimore. Again, this is somebody I can't remember who else was saying this. I saw it on Twitter, and I'm like, that's an interesting thought.
That is a tough schedule. Yeah, for the start. So they must ease up towards the back end if they're projected to have the 7th easiest.
They got Houston twice.
15
week 17. Yeah, they have Indy again. They have Tampa and they have Pittsburgh. But some of the tougher teams, Cincinnati, Baltimore, and again, we think we know, and we're sometimes right, but we're not always right when it comes to how But overall, like you said, it does get a little easier on the back end. But it's if they are 1-6 going into the bye, they say, hey, Tannehill's not the quarterback of their future. When Tennessee is theoretically threatening again for a championship, legit threat, he's probably not the quarterback, and not that's probably not that's going down.
Yeah,
just
I don't know. I just think with that coach, he's going to be aware of the difficulty of the schedule in the beginning. He's a sharp guy, that coach. I could see and he's competitive too. So I don't think he's going to pack it in, that early in the season, knowing what's coming up on the schedule. He's going to be competitive and try to get into the playoffs. I think, and look at that division. They got Houston, Indy, and Jacksonville that they're competing with. So yeah, I don't know, man. I think that they could try to be competitive for the entire season, but obviously in the first half of that season, it's a very good likelihood that they're gonna win maybe two of those games in that stretch that you mentioned, if they're lucky.
I agree. I like your point about Vrabel being he's a competitive guy. They're all competitive guys, otherwise they wouldn't be in the league. They wouldn't be coaches.
Yeah.
But I would give a counter to that. He has job security. He just signed a big extension not too long ago. So he could have a rough year or two and probably not go away. So maybe some coaches are listen, I got to get every W I can get because I might get kicked out the door if things go poorly. If the Titans for whatever reason go 5-12 this season, which still sounds weird to do, adding an extra game in there. If they go 5-12, like I don't think Vrabel's gone, right? They just power through. They kind of figure it out. But again, we're probably thinking about this too much and talking about it too much, but it came up. And it's an interesting conversation, I suppose.
So, how do you feel? Why don't you go ahead and review your team real quick? Let's see what you put together.
Yeah, it's I give it like I don't love it. It's fine. I don't love it. Lamar and Russ is okay. I need Lamar. Lamar's got to be the man. Running backs are pretty good. Just falls off a cliff pretty fast. I did not get Cook, who I always like to get, but I did get Warren as my fourth running back. Montgomery, I was debating between Montgomery and Swift. That was essentially a 51-49 coin toss. Love Pollard. I don't have enough of them because frankly, I haven't been getting positioned to get him. I'm getting in the 4 spot, in the 5 spot, in the 6 spot, and he's just gone. And I'm not taking him with my first pick. Mixon, I like. Kind of landed. I was gonna say I probably should have got another receiver, but I think I've been receiving depth. Lamb is good. Lockett, fine. Evans, Sutton. It's not the sexiest group, right? But I think it's pretty deep. It's 7 deep, legit 7. They're all possible. MVS is somebody I'm landing on a ton because he's there at 140, and he is the constant. Remember the episode from Lost, The Constant? The constant for Kansas City's offense. Well, the constant really is Mahomes, right? But the constant as far as the receivers, at least being on the field, right? I can't tell you he's going to catch the ball. I can't tell you he's going to, have a bunch of touchdowns. But he's going to be out there running more routes than everybody else, and it's really, really hard to figure out week to week. And we'll have a good time trying to figure that out, in DFS. As far as which receiver is it going to be? Is it going to be Tony? Is it going to be Rice? Is it going to be Richie James? Whoever. But I think MVS is going to be out there, and there's some value to that. Be attached to a really good offense at a really cheap price as my 6 or 7 receiver. Sure. Mims, I like him at cost, and I'm married to Russ for better or worse. My tight ends, as a collective, I think they're fine. I don't. There's not one standout. I do like all these guys individually, especially Jawan Johnson for New Orleans. Dawson Knox, I got him super late. Again, attached to a good offense. I know they have Kincaid, but Kincaid is probably going to play mostly as a wide receiver for Buffalo. But overall, I give my team a B. This is not my favorite team I've drafted. The correlation kind of stinks. My only correlation is Russ and his receivers. But, it's a B. I don't hate it. I don't love it. What about your team? How do you feel about your team?
So yeah, I'm the same way. The correlation in this one kind of sucks. But I notice when I do these shows live, and I draft live while I'm doing the show, my attention span on my lineups just kind of drifts, and I never get the correlation that I want. So I ended up with Tyreek Hill, George Pickens, Jahan Dotson, Treylon Burks, Odell Beckham, DJ Chark, Rashid Shaheed, and Khalil Shakir as my wide receivers. I was trying to go for upside in those. I know some of them are a little bit more risky than others, but I was really shooting for upside with my receivers. I got for running backs, ended up with Saquon Barkley, J.K. Dobbins, Rashad Penny, Tank Bigsby, Kareem Hunt. Those are my running backs. Of course, I spaced and drafted DJ Chark when I wanted to get Kenneth Gainwell there, so I kind of dropped the ball there. For my tight ends, I ended up with TJ Hawkinson, Chigo Okonkwo, and Cade Otton. I'm happy with my tight ends. I think I got a pretty solid core of tight ends there. And then for quarterbacks, I ended up with Sam Howell and Jalen Hurts. So quarterbacks,
I love that. I love that combination. I've gotten that so many times.
Yeah. So yeah, I think overall, pretty decent draft. Obviously, not the correlation that you'd hope for when you're drafting on one of these. And I think Dean and I both kind of threw out the any type of the traditional builds in that one. People typically talk about hero RB, zero RB, that kind of stuff. But Dean's mentality when he drafts these, I know he's just looking for the best player and not really paying too much attention to that type of structure. I'm kind of half and half. Sometimes Like if I'm start drafting, and like a particular construction doesn't fall to me, like then I just abandon it completely and I just go for best player. But a lot of times, like I'll like to try to focus on construction, so I'm building with some sort of a game plan as I'm kind of going along. But like I totally see either side of the argument there. But yeah, no, Dean,
You gotta
that's
be
why I like
flexible.
having you on the show. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. I was saying you got to be flexible and you got to be willing to adjust on the fly. And like even if you go with a plan, your plan's going to get derailed many times, and you got to go to plan B, you got to go to plan C, and it's like, I wanted Brandon Cooks. Once I got Brandon Cooks, I'm like, okay, I guess I'm going to get Dak. Well, I didn't get Brandon Cooks, so I guess I'm not going to get Dak, and I would have taken Dak, but Dak was gone, and at no time did I say, hey, what would be great if I get like a Denver stack, but it just sort of happened. I'm like, okay, now let's complete this because it's basically, it breaks ties and that kind of thing. By the way, you're talking about one guy that I thought would have been interesting for you, and I don't know if he even was drafted, and it's a little uncomfortable. We're talking about shooting for upside. I'm trying to see if he was drafted or not. Watkins, you have Hurts. He's going to have a couple spike weeks, right? He's going to catch a couple 50-yard touchdowns. Watkins for Philadelphia. Was he drafted at all? Like he's somebody I'll take as a late flyer if I have Hurts.
Yeah. He's a guy that I used to, the past few years I've drafted a lot of him, and I think there's more upside potential in those late rounds if you kind of are doing the draft right. If you're leaving the positions, like I think there's a lot of good tight ends like at the end of the draft this year, like Kate Otten, for example, like was a perfect, like Isaiah Likely. So if you're positioning yourself so you don't need to draft like a wide receiver or a running back at the very last like pick of the draft, then like I think you're setting yourself up so that you don't have to do like reaches for like guys like Quez or whatever. Khalil Shakir is kind of like my Quez Watkins this year. Like Quez Watkins in the past, he's a guy that I'd be going for late, to stack with Hurts. But after a couple years of doing it and like, just kind of being disappointed, like I want to spend it on a guy that like hasn't had that opportunity to break out yet, because Khalil Shakir, he's only in his second year, and he didn't really get too much of an opportunity last year because the team was healthy for the most part last year, so he wasn't really filling in for Isaiah McKenzie or anything like that last year. But now I think he's pretty much got that number 3 wide receiver spot to himself. Like he's probably competing with, with somebody. I'm not really too familiar with
Deontay Hardy. Gabe Davis is the 2.
Yeah.
There's Deontay Hardy, but it is if there's
Deontay
a fall off
Hardy.
after Diggs. If your point is there's a fall off after Diggs, I hear it.
Yeah.
And Davis, Davis was fine, I guess, but like he's another guy I've been drafting just because I think there's an upside of what he did last year, and he's another guy also can catch 2 50-yard touchdowns in the same game. Like he's a guy that can theoretically, he can have the most receiving yards in a given week. Now he also can just kind of disappear at times, but this is the game we're playing, and
he's not worth where he's getting drafted at now. Like because he's getting drafted like the 7th round, 8th round maybe.
Davis, I've taken some Davis around the 7th or 8th. Yeah, I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
Just,
to me, I mean, it feels
that offense. He's attached to that Buffalo offense, and that has a value to me.
Yeah. For me, like I would just rather. I think there's so many options there, like in that area. Like I just haven't landed on Gabe Davis too much. Not necessarily like an intentional thing, but like just the way that my drafts have been playing out, and like. I think you got to be conscious when you're drafting too, like of kind of those blind spots, because you could be missing out on a guy that could end up popping off, and then you have zero exposure to because you kind of get in a groove of drafting certain guys, because you want exposure to these other guys. But yeah, I can see either going either way with Gabe Davis for sure.
Yeah,
but. Thanks for jumping on, Dean. Tell them where they can find you this season, where they're going to be able to find your NFL content, and where they can follow you.
Yeah, at DFS_almanac on the old Twitter or X, if you will. I believe that's probably under my name right now. I think people did not see that. Of course, Rotogrinders, where you can find all my content. Rotogrinders.com. Doing baseball content later today. Baseball content all the way up to the end of the year. Football content on Sirius at times on the weekends. Rotogrinders is on Sirius. I guess it's going to be changing come football season, but at least for the next few weeks or so, I'll be on there. Wednesday nights, I will be hosting the Pick Six show. That's the plan with two of the absolute best in the business, Rich Rebar, John Daigle. Those guys are spectacular. Sunday mornings, we'll be talking football at Roto-Grinders on the YouTube. Every single day on Grinders Live talking baseball. But yeah, at this point, I'm not hard to find. So follow me on Twitter. I can retweet stuff out there, but always talking some sports and, of course, basketball not too far down the road. But I am excited for the upcoming football season. I appreciate you having me on. Good luck with the new sites. It was good talking, Simon. We hung out a bunch. People didn't know, I'm sure. We were movie buddies. We were both living in Nashville. At least I was living in Nashville at the time, and I was there to witness you order the child's cheeseburger every single time, and I always got a kick out of it because you found a loophole. Yeah. I was impressed. I respect it.
Life's about cheat codes, my friend. You got to find them where you can get them.
It's a great life hack. If you're ever at an AMC and just order the kid's cheeseburger, it's the same one as the adult, right? Is that the cheat code?
And it costs half the price, and you get a free drink with it. So
you get a free drink with it too. I didn't know that part of it. Oh man, what a deal!
You get the burger and the fries, which are the exact same as the adult burger, and then they throw on a drink, and it's like $5 less. It's crazy.
What a deal! Yeah, and they never question you. They just think you got the Benjamin Button thing going on or something. But
right,
yeah. What are they gonna say? They don't care. They just want to put the order in and get a tip, I suppose, right?
Yeah. There you go. But so good having you on, Dean. Make sure to follow us at Heat Seeker Sports over on X. Give us a like on this video if you could, and subscribe to our YouTube page. We're going to have a ton of other best ball content coming out before the season starts. And then on the regular season, we'll probably be focusing more on showdown content and showdown slates for this season. So it's all going to be free. Check us out at Heat Seeker Sports. And Dean, thanks again for joining me, and good luck, everybody.